It's mutant dinosaur madness with Jurassic World Rebirth. So is this the must-see popcorn action movie of the summer, or should the franchise just go extinct already? 5 years after the events of Jurassic World Dominion, the planet's ecology has proven largely inhospitable to dinosaurs. Those remaining exist in isolated equatorial environments with climates resembling the one in which they once thrived. The three most colossal creatures across land, sea, and air within that tropical biosphere hold in their DNA the key to a drug that will bring miraculous, life-saving benefits to humankind. So following the premise of many of the Jurassic Park /World films, Rebirth takes a group of people to an island that's inhabited by mutant and rejected dinosaur experiments that couldn't be shown to the public in any of the exhibitions. And along the way, the characters, they're going to fight against greed and peril, all while trying not to be eaten by really large lizards. We've got Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, Mahershala Ali, Rupert Friend, and Manuel Garcia Rulfo in a story from David Koepp, who helped write the first Jurassic Park, and then this is directed by Gareth Edwards, who gave us films like Rogue One, 2014's Godzilla, Monsters, and The Creator. At the kickoff of the story, I rolled my eyes hard, and I was almost disheartened by the MacGuffin that is used to initiate a catastrophe. I mean, it was dumb and far-fetched, and seriously, it had me worried for the rest of the movie. Thankfully, though, the stupid didn't continue. I mean, there is some ridiculousness, but it certainly wasn't a strong way to begin, at least from a story perspective. The cast works well together, but it also feels as though we're missing a large chunk of another adventure. Johansson and Ali's characters are friends who have worked many sketchy gigs together, and while we get tiny glimpses of their past through some conversations, there's a lot more depth that could be explored to give their dynamic more weight. And we all know Johansson is capable of action, just thanks to her huge stint in the MCU. For this, though, she feels oddly stoic, and in this confusing sort of characterization. She's mournful, which is vaguely touched on, but she's also giving off a mix of silly, action hero, and flirt. And she's often captured giving these forlorn or lost looks just out into nothing, meant, I'm sure, to evoke sympathy or maybe connection, but they just come across as awkward. And while Ali has fewer of these same types of contemplative stares, he too feels lost in thought, which is out of place for what's playing out. And their story arc, which does include then Rupert Friend and Jonathan Bailey, it's the corporate mission type storyline, purely money driven. And from this angle, even though we do get some actions and backstory from Ali and Johansson that counteract the greed, the group as a whole, they're just corporate mercenaries out to grab dino DNA so that it can be used by Big Pharma. And this is why I think we have the inclusion of the wildcard story arc with Manuel Garcia Rulfo. He and his family are thrust into the story to provide us with somebody pure that we can root for. And while it can be emotional if one of Johansson's team bites it, I mean, once we get to know some of them, the real emotional pull comes from the potential harm that could befall Garcia Rulfo and his kids. And I'm not saying their part in the story it doesn't work, because it most certainly allows for some intense anxiety and some nail-biting awesome scenarios. But they also aren't necessary to move the plot forward, since we already have a group of characters on their mission facing danger and peril. This is a wild ride of an action adventure. I mean, the story begins with something a bit heinous and freaky, and then builds out the world that the characters now live in, where dinos, they're just old hat, not interesting or thrilling. So instead of searching out new ones for entertainment, the big business angle comes into play. And once the characters begin their journey, the suspense, it gradually builds and then becomes a stressful chase. And I love that we get to see new dinos in this. I mean, we still get the requisite cameos from raptors and T-Rex, but they're not forefront or the main attraction. What we get are gigantic beasts that are sometimes visually horrific, conjuring creatures that feel like they took inspiration from the alien in Cloverfield, or a cross between a xenomorph and Motor from Adam Neville's The Ritual. Now the CGI, it's convincing, and outside of just some minor moments, I didn't notice any wonkiness with those visuals. I especially like the coloring and the strange details that a couple of the creatures took on, giving them some bright and unique features that makes them stand out from the standard fare that we're used to just seeing in this franchise. The scale is effective also. I still wish we'd get some of the realistic height perspectives we got from Spielberg's masterpiece, just creating a daunting but magnificent spectacle of lizard massiveness. Now, as far as the story goes, it is predictable and it is a formulaic arc. There's nothing surprising within the plot. There are going to be surprises within the execution of the story, especially with some of the action, but as far as how the narrative goes, there is nothing that stands out as novel or unique. At times, the story comes across as though it's attempting to be clever by obscuring motives, but each of the characters is so transparent that I'm not even sure why the writing attempted to throw us off by creating surprises, because they weren't surprising at all. And for the score, you can't have a Jurassic movie without the iconic theme from John Williams. And Alexander Desplat weaves that theme into his composition, creating new music that still rings familiar and evokes the chills of the very first installment. While the characters are more depressed and emotionally withdrawn than the story requires, the thrilling pursuits and uniquely terrifying new dino interpretations create an action-packed, electrifying chase through the jungle. The story is basic and predictable, but the visuals and heart-pounding excitement will thrill as you watch, even if it doesn't stick with you the entire ride home from the cinema. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and then a bunch of violence. Duh. I give Jurassic World Rebirth 3.5 out of 5 couches. So which of the Jurassic movies is your favorite, and which is your least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.